Okay, so hello, welcome back to another Unity video, but today we're not going to be doing a tutorial, we're going to be talking about GDC. So last month, me and a bunch of other content creators were flown out by Unity to San Francisco to go and attend GDC, the Game Developer Conference. A huge thanks to Unity for getting me there and for covering the expenses for the trip, and in this video I'm going to be talking about what we got up to. So on the Monday morning we got up and we went across to the Unity offices just down the road from GDC itself, and that day was mainly full of talks given by Unity developers talking about things that have just been added to the engine, things that are coming soon, and some things that are coming further down the line that of course I can't talk about. But in general, it was just a fun day meeting different people who work at Unity talking about what their various teams are working on. That was mainly it for the Monday, but then on the Tuesday we got up, went across to the Moscone Center, got our badges, and at that point we can actually attend GDC. We then went across the street to a different building where they were hosting the talks, and on that day it started off with the Unity roadmap. And in case you don't know, the Unity roadmap is where they show off all the cool new things that they're working on and what's coming in the next year. You can see on screen right now the people who are giving talks for the roadmap, and keep in mind most of these talks are actually uploaded on the Unity channel themselves, so if you weren't able to catch this live, you want to go watch that, go check the Unity channel. The start of the roadmap talk was mainly about performance and optimization with the editor, how to make everything run more smoothly, what they're adding with that, upgrades to the package manager, which I'm sure everybody uses, and also upgrades to compilation and just C# features in general. Then they covered some of the changes which are new but have actually already happened, so upgrades to the input system, the UI toolkit, which I've been using myself now, I've been trying to get used to using this in my own projects, and also editor workflows in general, so just making your life a lot better when using the Unity editor. And then they brought up multiplayer, so of course if you follow this channel that's probably going to be relevant to you. They showed off this game that's released recently using NGO, Netcode for Game Objects, and Relay to have a casual co-op experience. But also if you want something a bit more competitive and fast-paced, they've made a new Megacity sample that uses Netcode for entities and dots. And then you can see here about game server hosting and another example of a game that uses all of these technologies. There was then another example here with Turbo Golf Racing, where they do use UGS services, but their actual netcode itself is custom made. So you can actually use those in tandem with UGS. And then they gave us an overview of UGS and all the different things you can do with it. There is now friends and leaderboards, though that's in beta, keep in mind. Everything else on here I think is officially out, besides also user-generated content, which is coming out in Q2, so later this year that should be coming out. And that's a way for users to actually add mod support to their game using Unity, and it just makes it a bit easier than people having to hack their own things in if you do want to add support for user-generated content. And then they talked about ECS and dots in Unity, which I haven't used in a little while, but now that it's out in version 1.0 as far as I'm aware, it's now probably a good time to give it a go if you've been thinking of trying it. So they talked about the new features with that, and also showed off another game that's just come out or is about to be coming out, and that game uses ECS and dots. And then there was quite a bit about rendering and performance, which isn't really my area of expertise, so if that's more your kind of thing, you can go find the talk about that, but I'm not really going to give many opinions on this. As far as I'm aware, if the performance gets better and things look nicer, then that's good enough for me as a programmer. One thing that was nice though is that there are now new Universal Render Pipeline sample projects, and they show them off here, also some of the new features that you can do with it, and I imagine most of you are probably using URP now, as that's kind of the new default, and as you can see here, the new scenes. So there's this hub scene, terminal, and then from there you can go into the other scenes, so it's all one big project. And they're basically just showing off different use cases using URP. Then for shaders and materials, they're adding material variants, kind of like prefab variants, so you can create a material base, set it up, then make variants of that material, change their properties, and if you ever go back to the original material and change a property on there, it will be propagated to all of the children materials, which is pretty cool. And then there's some stuff here about shader graph, HDRP, post-processing, all this stuff. Like I say, maybe I'll use it. Maybe I'm using it without realizing, but it's not something I'm going to give my opinions on because I don't really know too much about that. And then for VFX Graph, it's always cool to see what people can make with this. There's some performance improvements here, new features here to make some cool looking smoke. I'm not quite sure what this one is about personally. And then, as you can see here, these little spider looking things, these are made using the VFX Graph. So you can have a bunch of them running on the GPU, so it's very performant. I'm not quite sure how you'd actually make this yourself, but it's cool that you can do it. And then improvements to lighting, which, yeah, again, is not something that I'm really qualified to talk about, but it's always cool, yeah, again, seeing what people are making with this and seeing what you can do with the engine. GPU light mapper, light probes, yeah, again, stuff that I know exists, but I don't really know properly how to make use of them. And then there are all the new features coming with characters, so hair, eye, skin, all this stuff to make your characters look ultra realistic if that's what you're going for. And then they wrapped it up talking about cross-platform, so as you can see here, new things for mobile, console and desktop, for the web, and also for XR. So there was some talk about VR devices, the different packages you have to use that and how to integrate it in Unity. Talking about PS2 VR here, the new rendering they've added for that, and some samples here of different games using it. And then for mixed reality, it's another thing I haven't really messed around with much myself, but they mention here new features that are coming and the packages they're in, when these packages are going to be in, like here composition layers by 23.2, but also there's some things here that are already in and what versions they're in, like 2022.2 for the hands package, and so on. They mention here AR Foundation, simulation here, and also how to get started. There's some examples and sample template projects. And then that was it for the roadmap, and then there was a little break, and then for the rest of the day in the same room, there were talks being given by different people about the specific things mentioned in the roadmap, some more in-depth dives into the different things that were covered. And then it was Wednesday, which is when the GDC Expo floor opens up. That's when you can go down and go visit the different stalls and booths that the different companies have set up. So on that day, we only really got a chance to go around the Unity one. So we went around there trying out the different samples that they'd shown us the day before. They had them ready on laptops and on phones. Got some goodies, of course. And then after that, it was time for the meetup. So just before GDC, Matt from Game Dev Guide suggested that we do some kind of fan meetup at the park next to GDC so we could get some fresh air, touch some grass, and get to meet some of you guys. So we did that, and the turnout was great. So we spent that afternoon just chatting with you guys, talking about Unity, game dev, whatever it may be, and just having some fresh air. And then that was it for Wednesday. Then on Thursday, we actually decided to take that day as a day to do some sightseeing and just experience some different parts of San Francisco. So in the morning, we went rock climbing, and then after that, we went for lunch in Chinatown. And then after there, we went up to Fisherman's Wharf and just did some sightseeing around the North Coast. We saw Alcatraz, the Golden Gate Bridge. We did all the kind of typical sightseeing stuff that you'd expect. And then on the Friday morning, it was the last day of GDC. It was actually closing earlier that day, I think around 2 or 3 p.m. So I got up quite early, and so did Jason Wyman, and we went around the stalls. So we saw a lot of you guys there going around, and we tried to visit as many things as we could before it closed in the afternoon. And then we met up with everybody else, though at that point some people were actually starting to head home. But for those of us that were left, we decided to actually rent some bikes and go on a cycle over to the Golden Gate Bridge. So it was me, Bargy, Samyam, Polymars, and Hugo from Code Monkey. It was a lot of fun that night, and then it was getting late. We went back to our hotel rooms, had some food, went to bed, and then the next day was basically just returning home. Everyone had flights at different times. So on that morning, I just went to the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, which was next door to our hotel, basically. Had a little look around there, went off to the airport, and then just waited until it was my flight to come back home. So yeah, that's it for my GDC 2023. I'm sure there's plenty of things I missed. That was my first time going, so it was just a great experience in general, and it was nice going abroad for the first time in quite a few years because of lockdown and getting to meet everybody. It was just a great experience overall. Go check out their channels in the description. I'll have them all linked down below. Each person has done their own GDC recap video anyway, so you can go check out theirs for different points of view on it, because I'm sure I forgot to mention everything that was done. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. But of course, before I go, I've got to thank my patrons. A special thanks to Francisco Lira, Ryan Shu, David McDermott, Gregory Pierce, Kyle K, Mark McCorkle, Roman Arriaga, and Sahila. If anyone else would like to help support the channel monetarily, link to Patreon is down below. If not, there are also links down below to other social media such as Twitch, Twitter, and Discord. If you could help us out by following on any of those or checking any of those out, that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.